50 ways to live your time. Number 12. On the outside and the inside of a human once again. By Kosen Handa. To clarify the spatial concepts of Naimen, the inside of a human, and Gaimen, the outside of a human within Noosology, let's analyze a diagram from the Day God Sees God's Advanced Edition. This visual aid will enhance our understanding of these concepts. In the book, I explained that the outside of a human refers to visible space, while the inside of a human refers to invisible space. Now, take a closer look at this diagram. As I mentioned before, when we observe an object in space, we perceive its surface as the figure and its background space as the ground. In this diagram, both the figure and the ground are labeled as the outside and drawn with a solid blue line. However, a closer look reveals a key difference in the curvature of the two surfaces. The object's surface is convex, while the background space is concave. This inverse relationship between concavity and convexity suggests that they should not be viewed as the same three-dimensional space. Instead, they should be understood as mutually inverted spaces. Our general understanding of space, i.e., the human gestalt, does not capture objects and their background space through this invergent concept. To elaborate, as we have discussed in the previous video, we tend to assign a scale to the space surrounding objects and grasp it through the notion of size, which is attributed to the interiority of objects. As a result, we assume that the spatial domain behind the object is simply an extension of the same space as the object's internal space, just expanded outward. If we grasp an object background space in such a way, then we are viewing the background space conceptually as the enlarged surface of the inner wall of the object, i.e., the backside of the object's surface. Please note that the object's surface is visible, but its backside is not visible to us. Thus, once the background space is cognized based on scale, our vision of the space belongs to the invisible side. Additionally, in Noosology's perspective, modern human consciousness views visible space as a projection of kansei, sensory space, saiten, cognized through our senses and perception. Conversely, invisible space is considered a projection of shikei, ideal space, sinai, understood through language and concepts. Therefore, Noosology posits that the space-time we experience daily is intrinsically woven by language. Subsequent videos will further explore sensory space, ideal space, and their higher dimensions. Although we have talked about the critical flaw in our spatial cognition so far, many of you may still be wondering what is wrong with it. Comprehending this flaw is crucial to Noosology's perspective on the divergence between transformer consciousness, which drives the manifestation of dimensional paradigms, and human consciousness, which remains dormant. While this may seem complex, it is vital that we engage with these ideas thoughtfully and carefully. If what Okotsuto said holds true, we are on the brink of a recurrence of the dimensional split that occurred approximately 13,000 years ago, separating Moon and Atlantis. The implication of this is profound. So, what exactly is the background of what we see as a perceptual front? The answer to this question can be found by considering the space we actually see as a two-dimensional projective space. Let's look at the diagram again. It illustrates the relationship between the object, the observer, and the space they are situated in, as seen from a side view to evoke your spatial imagery. However, if you were to stand in the observer's position and view the object and its background, your perspective will be simply the surface of the object, the figure, and the background space, the ground. Here, the depth dimension created by the interplay of the object and its background space is flattened, geometrically appearing as a flat surface. Essentially, the depth direction, which functions as the line of sight, is collapsed into a single point, resulting in a two-dimensional planar space. However, when we say two-dimensional here, this two-dimensional space is fundamentally different from the ordinary two-dimensional Euclidean space. Geometrically, this type of space is referred to as a two-dimensional projective space. While a straight line extends infinitely in Euclidean space, lines in projective space converge at a single point at infinity. To put it simply, it is the space where shadows are cast. Just as the three-dimensional object becomes flat when projected as a shadow, the visual images projected in the visual field are essentially like shadows. In other words, the visual field as the perceptual front is not a three-dimensional space, but a two-dimensional projective space. The key concept is that when the visual field is regarded as a two-dimensional projective space, a point on the surface of an object perceived along the line of sight and the point imagined to be in the background space behind it are perceived as the same. In other words, as shown in the diagram, points A and B are identified as a single point. To grasp this in three-dimensional space, imagine you are circling around an object while maintaining your gaze on it. That is, you rotate your line of sight around the object's center. As you do this, you will notice that each point on the object's surface captured along the line of sight transitions in a one-to-one correspondence with points on the background surface. This reveals that the spherical surface forming the object's surface, the convex side, and the spherical surface traced as the object background, the concave side, are in a mutually inverted relationship at their optical center, the center of the object perceived. In essence, there is a hidden invergent relationship in the three-dimensionality between the object's interior and its external background. Based on this understanding, Noosology posits that the background surface perceived at the perceptual front by an observer is a surface that appears as an inversion of the object's surface, not an extension of the object's inner wall. So, where is the surface that results from simply expanding the object's inner wall perceived? That is simple. In Noosology's expression, it is not in the forward direction of our perception, but the backside of our perception. When you imagine an object in front of you expanding, at some point, the image of the object switches to the one that envelops you. At this moment, the surface that was the object's inner wall is perceived as expanding towards your back, i.e., in the backward direction. As we have discussed, the space in your backward direction is a mirror image space where the image of your face or yourself standing in front of the object is generated. Once the image of the object in front of you expands to envelop your body, your spatial awareness becomes flipped from the outside to the inside of a human. Needless to say, the space perceived within this image is not actually a visible space.